Hello friends, welcome to Folk Beats. This is your host Aimon Fatima. Today we are going to talk about Balochistan, a less discovered, less talked about province of Pakistan that is very rich in its culture, where not only different languages are spoken, but the residents of Balochistan also create different genres of music that are very rich and impactful in their essence and flavor. Today's program is going to be a special treat for all of us. We will start from talking about different genres of Baloch music with Dr. Fouzia Saeed, who is a famous anthropologist and executive director of Lok Virsa. And after that, we will meet some very talented Nasur performers from Balochistan. Welcome to our studios, Dr. Fouzia.
Thank you very much.
You recently returned from Balochistan. How was your trip?
It was excellent. It is so enriching. Every time it feels like, I get a high from it. Especially I'm so interested in music, and Balochistan is really a home to such a diverse and rich musical tradition. It is a joy.
Is it? Because Balochistan's perception in my head is that it's a mountainous area that's very hot and
Dry
barren,
land.
not much to do there.
I think the image or the perception of an area is usually quite different from how the area is. But no, Balochistan I think is very rich in terms of its all kinds of folklore. I think starting from embroidery to relationships to traditions to music, musical instruments, and then when a province or an area like that has this linguistic diversity, the northern part is Pakhtun area, then you have the Barawi speakers, then you have the Balochi speakers, and then you have the Makran belt, and then you have areas where people speak Sindhi that are attached to Sindh. So you blend in a lot of singing traditions, instruments, etc.
And Balochistan's music, it's not really discovered much. We don't know much about the music and the genres.
Outside Balochistan.
Outside
yes.
Balochistan.
Yeah. That's very true. And I think that Pakistani people as well as others who are outside Pakistan, they need to explore. Some of the Baloch singers have performed internationally, like Asghar Khan, Asghar Khan, Faiz Baloch also in the past. They have reached European countries and many music festivals. So people have experienced the glimpse.
Okay.
But I don't think that they have a good understanding of the genres and the types of music. But just to say a little bit briefly, because I'm interested in folk music as opposed to classical or other traditions, I think there is a whole category of songs that are sung for children. Okay. Lullabies and songs of praise that are lado. Then there are songs that are sung around weddings.
Okay.
So there is a whole, I would say, group of songs that are sung for weddings. There are sehras which are sung for praise of the groom, and there are other songs that are sung for different rituals.
The songs that brides sing when they're leaving their father's house and crying.
That's true. They have their own poetry, women's poetry, and they sing those songs when they're leaving and when they're missing their maternal home.
And then there are those laments too when they're trying to, they sound like incels, but they're actually sandwiched between love for their in-laws and then their own family as well.
That's true, because they have to meet a lot of challenges of life. Yeah. And that's how folk music is, it intertwines with the life itself. So then those songs, then there is a whole category of ballads. So like every other part of South Asia, I would say, not just Pakistan, which is famous for ballads. They have their own history recorded in very long ballads. Then there is a whole category of songs which is linked to people getting in trance. Songs or music, I would say. How women get stressed out, or men, and they think there is some kind of a spirit that has possessed them, and then there are special lahriyas on saros that they play, and that helps people to go in a trance, and then the spirit finally loses the body. In the south also, they're called Malid groups, and they sing songs with the daf, but the beat, just like Qawwali, facilitates you going into a trance. So there are those trance songs. But so it just goes on. a lot of categories.
And we see that people of Balochistan in their lives, traveling is a very strong element that really inspires them, and it also affects their everyday life, especially music, in creation of music or even in terms of writing lyrics. And when somebody travels, it gives birth to stories.
Yes.
So in Balochistan, the art of storytelling is very strong.
That's true.
Especially the Narsur performers. They go from one area to another, and an area that's so culturally diverse. You just mentioned that linguistically it's very diverse, culturally it's very rich.
I think storytelling is so important in all our cultures. One, you transfer the knowledge, the heritage to the next generation. You long for, you have yearning for people, you're missing people. That then you have the almost like documentation of history. You know, you want to record your history. If you are inspired by heroes, you want to record those heroes in lyrics. And fourthly, I think it creates some kind of an entertainment for the society also. You know, when people are sitting at night in cold winter evenings, then they have fire, they're in a desert somewhere and they want to spend their time, then folklore, these kinds of folk ballads are a very good use. They have the function of that.
So this art of storytelling, is it based only on oral traditions or people also write it down?
When they write on their own. It is not that the oral singers are counting on the written part, but it is transferred always, we say Sina Basina, you know, orally. That's how people learn it. And in Balochistan in particular, the folk ballads, I would say 80% of them are around wars.
Yeah, Meera Khan.
Yes, Chakar-e-Azam and many stories. So it is always adventures of wars. There are romantic stories also. I mean, they do have their share of it. But I think that this body of people, you know, they have recorded their history. Dambura and Saroz are vital to it. And Nar, very important, Narsur. The stories go on and on and on. And I just am thinking of like an anecdote. Faiz Baloch, you know, is a very famous singer. Yeah. He comes from the Makran belt and he has gone to many countries also. He's no more here with us. But he used to be a storyteller.
Okay.
And he used to tell these people that, yes, I've become popular and yes, I do a lot of TV programs, but I hate it because you people force me to sing these 3-minute, 4-minute bits. You know, for me, nothing less than 2.5 hours to 3 hours is a song. So for him, he says he can sing all night, all day, all night. But he said nothing less than 2.5 hours satisfies me. And I'm a storyteller. What have you people made me into? So he used to get very frustrated. And you see that the concept of time is so different. Now you want a 30-second bit, sound bite or something. And a lot of things are said in 3-minute bites. But in those days, when time was stretchable, 3-4 hours was nothing to talk about one little part of a story.
Okay, so, and you have researched in Balochistan, you have traveled a lot within Balochistan, and you have first-hand accounts of encounters with these musicians, especially the art of Narsur. I don't know anything about Narsur. What is it?
This is, I think, one of the very archaic, I'm taking the liberty of using the word archaic, archaic forms of folk music. It's very old and it's very difficult to trace the roots. And this is played with a flute kind of an instrument, which is the
bamboo reed? Or?
Yes, it is a bamboo reed. And the sur part, which is the singing, is usually a long tail. And they don't have flamboyant compositions in that. You know, they do have a simple tune and they have a very deep voice and they go, you know, very deep voice and they sing in that. And a lot of the young people, even in Balochistan, sometimes do not understand the lyrics that well because there is a specific style of singing that. But they just go on and on and on. And people, you know, sometimes they think, what is this? It's very monotonous. But for people, because they are so focused on the substance of it, they're listening to a very vibrant story. So they are not bored by the monotonous part of it. And they do use rags and surs in a classical manner also. and these people still kind of wear their facial hair in a particular kind, and they retain that. This is a very special beard that they make. I mean, it is not just for this singing, it is part of that community. But they have retained it, and those who still engage in singing, they want to retain their attire and they want to retain their beards in that way.
And that attire is followed only by the musicians or performers, or everyone belonging to that tribe?
Everyone belonging to that tribe would wear that. But it's just that, sometimes here in Punjab or in other places also, you see when people are there to perform, they want to wear their best folk attire. So they want to, in Balochistan also, they want to retain that, even though we are fortunate enough that in Balochistan people have not thrown away their traditional attire and gotten into jeans and t-shirts, and thank God for that. But in this field, when they're performing, they like to wear, their beards in the right way and their turbans in the right way. Like Akhtar Chanal, he retains that size of his turban and the big baggy pants, etc. So yeah, that is not just for artists or for singers, that is for that tribe. And I think that another thing I want to share about this is that we invite them to melas a lot. And I always get very tensed up because I know that the audience does not have the taste for it. Narsur is, I'm so glad that you're doing this program on, because we need to understand it, we need to develop the taste, we need to get insights so we can start appreciating it, and if we can get the sort of a summary of the story, maybe we can pick words and we can start enjoying it too.
Okay, Lok Virsa has been working for preservation of intangible cultural heritage, and Narsur is almost becoming, it's on the verge of extinction. Let me use that term. So what can we do as youngsters or generation next to preserve this part of tradition?
Okay, I think that the first responsibility lies with the Baloch people, because it is such a significant part of it preserves the history. So it is such a significant part of the historical documentation. And the younger generation needs to understand it, the younger generation needs to appreciate it, if not start singing, appreciating it. And I think it is the younger generation that would somehow come up with bright ideas of how to transfer that to YouTube, how to explain that, how to make it more interesting. And that is the first thing. The second thing is that cultural institutes like Lok Virsa, they have a special role. PTV has done an amazing job over the years to propagate instruments that have died in front of our eyes, but they have recorded them, they have tried to propagate. So PTV, Radio Pakistan, Lok Virsa, Pakistan National Council of the Arts, and all the other local outfits, cultural outfits, they need to promote it in a way because, like I said, it is difficult. Folk song, you have, Balle Balle, or you have Bibi Shirini, it gets popularized very quick. This is a difficult form. This is archaic, this is difficult form. So developing the taste for it is also a difficult task. But I think institutions like ours should record their long stories. They should not push them for these 3-minute snippets. They should record whatever material they have, just because that is history. And then in future, if maybe there will be fusion groups from Balochistan and use this as a part. Recently we used that in an orchestra. It was a 5-6 minute. Taj Mohammad Tajal composed it, and it was called Dastur Ki Aashiq. And maybe if you can play a little bit at some point, that would be good too. But there were almost 20 instruments, and there we intentionally had the nad, but nadsur. So it is so beautiful. If people want to use it as fusion and as background, it just has so much aura of an era in that.
So language is not a barrier in understanding Narsur.
It should not be, yes.
We invited some Narsur performers in our studios, and after you will talk to them, but before that I would play some clippings from Lok Virsa archives. We recorded some Narsur performances here at Lok Virsa.
The old ones.
The old
So that's very good that in the beginning of your program you play the old ones, because recently some changes are coming and it is so difficult to play. That sometimes Baloch musicians replace it with algoza. You know, it's a slightly different kind of algoza than the Sindhi one, but I think Nad is Nad.
So does that make any difference?
Yeah, it is different. And you will see in the older recording, you will see the Nad, proper Nad. And then maybe if you have any newer recordings, because recently there are musicians that have replaced it. So the singing goes in the same fashion, but they are playing algoza, which is slightly different. Yeah.
Okay.
Good, looking forward to see it.
Friends, let's watch a performance of Narsur at Lokprisa. Wow, that was a beautiful performance.
It has a magical impact. You know, if you are in tuned, if you have the taste, it is like magic. Yes.
Dr. Fouzia, you have been affiliated with Lokprisa for a long time, and as I said that you have personally visited musicians in Balochistan as well. What is the reason of demise of this art and these musicians?
I think one reason is that we have systematically stigmatized our own culture or our own cultural activity, and therefore we always give more value to Western music or value to more urbanized modern music, and we put less value to our own folk culture. So just that psychological hierarchy that we have created does have an impact, and that is how the traditional culture dies because of that. Now, second thing is that we do not respect our musicians the way we should, and that is not only for Balochistan, also true for Balochistan, but also for the rest of the country. You know, we do stigmatize them. Not stigma, maybe I would say that we value them less. So if my son is going to the university, I would not want him trained in Narsur.
Why?
I'm just saying that this is how people think.
Yes.
They think that he can go and enjoy it, but he needs to become a professor, he needs to become a... We attach it very much to these modern urban professions. And we don't realize that music actually, I believe very strongly, music completes human beings.
But is that because musicians do not earn that well and doctors and engineers, they earn more?
You know, I wish I could say yes, but unfortunately I have to face the bitter truth, and that is that it is valued less, not only because of the livelihood, just because it is those kinds of people who do this kind of work. You know, and it also attaches, this whole concept is attached to the past occupational groups, when our whole society was stratified, and there was a caste system, I suppose, and even more than that. Then there were occupational groups. So there were people who were born to be butchers, and there were people who born into the families of being Nai, the barbers, people who are born in the families of being gardeners, and that is how musicians were seen. And they were actually, if not castes, we call them ethnic groups. Like Manganar is an ethnic group. These are communities that carry on the legacy of traditional music. And then we have langas in Sindh. Then we have dooms, for example, in northern areas. So these people are born into that. They may also do agriculture work, they may sometimes do labor work, but then they're born into it, and then we say, well, we are Rajputs, or we are Sayyids, or we are so and so. So we pretend that we are very superior, and only people of a certain caste or a certain ethnicity should do that. Now, another interesting thing I would share with you, that we had a competition of saros. And I will compare two provinces for you. We had a competition of Rabab, where actually anybody and everybody participated from KP, because there they have gotten over that. There it is a very flat kind of democratic ethnic system.
And now Rabab is played at the shrines as well.
Rabab is played at shrine. Rabab is played by professional musicians, and Rabab is played by students, and Rabab is played by shopkeepers, and the person who won the award was a rickshaw driver. So regardless of what tribe they belong to, the rabab, they have not limited rabab to a certain ethnic group. But as opposed to that, in Balochistan, which has a more stratified society, you know, Balochistan is a hierarchical society, tribal society, and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa is like a circle, you know, it is a flatter society. So here the task of creating music has been given to a certain group, and then people feel like we cannot stoop low. So we had a competition of saros, and only professional singers or sort of musicians coming from families participated in the competition. No students, no everyday, you know, people from everyday life, they did not participate. Similarly in Sindh, sorry, I'm kind of giving you a broader picture, but in Sindh, if we do a competition of Algoza or Murli or even Sindhi Sarangi, students will not participate because students don't think that it is okay for them to learn it. Somehow, you know, that it stays in the families of musicians, and that is unfortunate. You know, gradually I hope they get over it. Flute, people still think it's okay, you know, flute is cool and sitar is cool, but these local instruments, they have not yet gotten over this limitation. And that is, so your question was about livelihood and earning money. I would say that they still think it is beneath their status. And I just pray that these concepts get dissipated, you know, and people get over that.
That's rather surprising for me because the entire act of memorizing a complete story and then reproducing it for 2 or 3 hours or probably the entire night, that takes up a lot of acumen and intelligence. And sometimes they also add up some spices to the story, which doesn't alter the actual historical account, but it just creates new flavors for the story.
So it requires high level of skill.
Yeah.
And just any instrument, Aimon, any instrument, may it be tabla, may it be flute, may it be nard, may it be algoza. You get your A-level student from an urban family, you know, and you tell him that you have to learn. Just guess how many years before he could, you know, really perform at the basic level. So these people are very intelligent. These people are very intuitive. These people really pick up the thing and work on it so hard. So there is no issue of them being less in any other way except for the disease we have here in our brains.
So how do we change that now?
I think people like you are doing programs on this, we're talking about it, and I think people need to value it more, and they will not be able to value the musician unless they themselves join them. You know, that's what we say about theatre also. You join it, and that is where you will see the balance. And you start singing, people who are interested in it should start, and young generation should come off their ivory tower or whatever, or white horse, you know, and join these people and learn from it, and then create fusion or create modern music out of it. It needs to be rooted in their tradition.
Thank you so much for coming to us.
You're very welcome. You're doing a very good job here.
Friends, we are going to play a clip of the Sur Ke Aashiq, which was an orchestra based on 20 musical instruments by Lok Virsa. You will see Narsur for a very short time, but it will give you a good reference to what Narsur is and what the art is about. Narsur is a very old genre of music that is mostly unheard of. That's why we specially invited Mr. Meera Khan from Quetta to tell us about Narsur. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you so much.
What is Narsur?
नरसुर में बलोची कहते हैं.
Narsur is a type of Balochi traditional singing. Actually, it's a very old tradition from the times of Chakre-Azam.
वक्त है ना बल्कि पुराना है वक्त है चाकर आजम है.
So our audience is eager to enjoy this, especially during marriage ceremonies because it's very famous during the celebration.
माय नरसुर है कहते बाज एमी ते माय फले गिंदग है इसी बाज कहते हैं.
How is Narsur different from other genres of singing?
जी नरसुर में बाकी साधन से मुख्तलिफ हैं. ये दंबीरवा ये कहते हैं सरूदा.
Yes, Narsur is different from other music, such as Dambura and Sarinda and Dholaks.
ये यक शायरी है यक मतलब मीची है जो गालबंदी है पैदा का ये मैं नरसुर ये बाकी साधन से मुख्तलिफ है मतलब.
It's a lonely music where lyrics and music are concerned. It is different from others.
एक है यक साजे देरी तारीख आश गिफ्टों मतलब वक्त आश गिफ्टों.
When did you start learning Narsur? And why did you learn Narsur? Why not any other form?
सरमना खुशी भी था मतलब.
Ma'am, the reason is that I liked Narsur from the very start of my childhood due to company of our old fellows, as they all played the Narsur.
मैं फला मार्क सन या बचपन आ जा शौक भी था कुदरती वो माँ कहते.
At that time, it was quite natural for me to adopt this music. Afterwards, the poet wrote lyrics and I performed Sur and Naris played the Nar. Now it's the new era of media, mobile videos and computers, and this will all increase our prospect for this.
ज़्यादा भी है ना ये वास्ता मासिक लाइफ है शेयर.
And Narsur is mostly considered a genre that is sung by people traveling from one place to another, like shepherds. Is that true?
या ओमेगा बिल्कुल रास्ता.
Yes, it is exactly true. We dwell in small towns where people, especially young male children who are shepherd, travel to the mountains. They play the Narsur as there is a lack of training in schools. It is not usual in cities, only villages where people love to play Narsur. Some write lyrics, some play Nar, and many become Suri. I consort with your question, that is genuine.
सही रास्ता द्रोह ना.
Do you also travel around Balochistan or other parts of Pakistan?
जी हाँ.
Yes, I tripped almost every section of Pakistan. I might not have traveled wide places like I didn't go to Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, but I traveled through Punjab, Aimon Khan, Sadiqabad, Dera Ghazi Khan, Tausa Sharif, and many more. And Balochistan is like my own place. In Sindh, Karachi, Sangha, Hyderabad, and Tandu Adam, and more sections of it.
ज़्यादा कहते कुल इलाका जो.
Okay, Narsur is a dying form of art. Do you think people appreciate it enough? Do you have enough audience?
सर ये नहीं हर किसी शौक है वो आका से.
It's all about interest. You cannot impose it on anybody to determine this. Yes, it's true. It requires a little training, but the ultimate thing is interest. Everybody desires to be the master of that art form. Sometimes that cannot happen, as it is a matter of passion. Today you can discover it by videos and listening to music of this by the spiritualists.
हर किसी से मौजूद बां और यक के मर्द में भी कुल उम्र का भी था नवी है यक के भी गा देस्ता अमेरिका साथ.
Do people support you enough? Are you happy with what you get paid for or the appreciation that you have been getting so far?
जी हाँ शुक्र अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह बिल्कुल मना पंजी अदिबाज देगा माँ मैं फलां रोगा.
Yes, thanks to Almighty Allah, we receive invitation for marriage ceremonies and other purposes. In Loralai and Harnai, the language of people is Pashto, but they heed to us, they give us respect. In Sindh, there is a vast population of Sindhi, Baloch, Mari and other communities. They invited us and yield you enough, and they also pay tickets for moving around.
बाज मार मखलूत इज्जत दा महारन दे रों बाज इज्जत दे पैसा वां दे दे खर्चा मर्चा किरा हर शे हिसाब किताब में कुल बाज दिया.
Mostly the Narsur that I have heard is the story of Meera Khan. Are there any other stories as well? Would you like to sing something for us?
यानी सर हमेशा के मैं
I'm going to sing it without proper music, then it would be rather unlike.
गालबंदी सावा मतलब सचा रो अशकुना ना बंदे के बस्ता चाकरा रिंदा कवि है वार रहा ये बंद बोल रगा जाहा नया उसकी दोषी गिरो खान लम था खाए भावसो खाए हा गहा खसा नरा था शाहिदी ये द्रोग हैं दुनिया गवाहिदी दाथ मुरीदा शाहिदी ये द्रोग दुनिया गवाहिदी दोषी जुड़े न जंबरे जगरे जमिस्तानी से दोषी गिरो खान लम्ब था मीर चाकर महला बुना ये मैं एक
Mr. Meera, Narsur is a very old form of music and mostly youngsters are not aware of it. You want your children to carry on this tradition?
जी सर वजह नहीं जी ये गार्बियों की चीज़ें न इसी
Yes, ma'am. They play it. We are trying to teach to our youngsters, and this thing not going to cease. We shall instruct and keep singing it. And it's a traditional thing. We should not die out like this.
गार्बी का नाइला कामयाबी गार नबी
Thank you so much for coming to our studios.
मेहरबानी जी सर
Friends, let's listen to a beautiful performance of Narsur that Mr. Meera Khan has specially recorded for us at our studios. When we come back, we will talk to Mr. Asghar Khan, who is a Nari. Nari means flute player, and Nar is a special form of flute. Friends, this was Nar, the flute that brings magic to Narsur. Today we have in our studios Mr. Asghar Khan, who is a master of playing Nar. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you so much.
What is this instrument that you were playing?
It is a part of Narsur. We call it Jodi and also Bean.
ishia ma kesni narsurago avar
It is essential part of Narsur, which is included in our culture.
indi bushuni jodi bushuni ठीक है ना ishia ma wajno dastan ge mai sakafat baluchi aur ishia ma wajno.
So why is Nar so important for Narsur? Because mostly when we look at the performances of Narsur, there are other instruments as well, but Nar is the only famous one.
मगुश्तो एक किस्से मैं मरी के बैल अंदर बलूची अंदर एक किस्से नियत किए औलाद सिर्फ देरी यक नड़ा.
Yes, as I said, in our Meera tribe and in our Balochi culture, it is the most ancient part of the Narsur. All other instruments are added later on.
पता भी है और ये दी यक नड़े या शाखे यक हिस्सा है मखलूत मायशी शौक तो जुड़ती हूँ यक बलूची सकाफत है यक बलूची कल्चर है शमाज़.
It is the main piece of Balochi culture. Balochi is our mother language. We got it from our forefathers and now we keep on playing it.
देरी या रिश्या वजन आना पैदा हम मैं पैदा वजन तक भी कम वजन तक अब बड़ा डम पेशियाँ वजन तक मादे हमारी पलवा दी तो ये शौक भी था मायशी जुड़ती हूँ वजनों.
Asghar sir, what is this made of?
ये कलेर माँ को नहीं कलेर आज दिटे यक की दूरी.
It is made from the wood of trees like Khaler and Tali, and also a tree named as Harpo.
दारे नामे पर पुगड़ दिटाई हमें सही दारा जब मतलब ठाग में बराबर भी हैं.
This instrument looks very difficult to play. How old were you when you started playing it?
शर्मा इस जुड़ता तक
It was when I was 10 years old.
10 साल में उम्र है हमारे माटे में
10 years.
10 साल में उम्र है मैं जुड़ता हमारे माँ उड़ किस्ते माँ इच्छे का मतलब दरा ध्याति सावा निश्चित हूँ.
As I was living in the village and had many interaction with culture and people of villages. It's about 23 years ago when I recorded my first performance as a cassette, and then the era changed into mobiles and internet. Then this music started spreading very fast. People across the country kept on inviting us.
नेट दर कब्ता वो इश्ये जमा कैस्ट है हमारे चीज़ ख़त्म भी तो इंटरनेट तो दौरात का तहारंदा पहल सोचती हैं वो किस्म आपको इसी शौक पैदा भी था मखलूता चाहत ज़्यादा.
We also performed in government functions. We also performed on PTV Bolan. Then here in Lokvirsa, Islamabad, thanks to higher authorities. Now my age is 34 to 35 and I started when I was a young boy of 10 years.
तादाद को मां शामिल भी ज़रूर बिल्कुल इसी किस्म का मिक्र शौक के हमारे मां 10 साल की छोरो है था वहाँ हमारे मां जुड़ता और नी एट में तकरीबन महीनी उम्र भी गए 35 साल 34 साल में उम्र है. जी हाँ.
So who was your teacher?
ऐसे कल तो साइं इसी शागिर्दी सर में कसा बन होता हूँ अर्ग मई उस्ताद अस्ते हम आवर गए कि आई तक मदी तो.
Actually, I had never been a student of this music. Never attended classes as such. But there was a cousin of mine, Asghar Khan, with whom I spent a great time. So I got a lot from him.
ये बेरा हमारी शागिर्दी तो दो में पर तो मैं अब्बा जिंदो हमारी वजह तक हमारी हमारा तरीका डसा ये सही कश हमारा तरीका डसे कि बाबा इश्ये हमें गंद मतीली.
He also taught different ways of playing Narsur. My father was also a Nadi, but he was not a regular player of it. I attended marriage ceremonies and other functions with Asghar Khan, and then I learned it completely. But my father taught me how to manage your breath while playing it.
सर इससे कल था हमेशा के हमें मुर्दान हमारा तरीका मैं जिंदा पैदा मतलब मैं अब्बा डसता कि ये बेरा मतलब हम मुर्दान का ये बेरा एर का हमारा तरीका को पता दर कब तो मैं उस्ताद है कि अस्त वजह नोक हैं अब्बा हमारे माँ वजह ना कम में वजह ना गुड़ ये इश्तो दाता दूमी मैं यक नासर खाना में मैं उस्ताद है मैं वही रिश्तेदार दे से कज़न दे से गाँव में हमारे.
And he made me practice for 20 days. Now I go everywhere. People send me invitation for performances.
नहीं मर्शी मंगा अल्लाह मेहरबानी आप अंदर कपूँ में प्रोग्राम शादियाँ रोगों प्रोग्राम हर अंदर में लोटाना हमारा.
We see a form of Nar in Sindh as well. Is that any different from the Baloch Nar or it's similar?
है ना नड़ बलूची अस्ता बलूची नड़ हर किसी मतलब में फ़र्क है नड़ अगर नड़ साज में यक ठीक है ना बलूची इंद्रा वजह ना आते ये नड़ा वजह ना और इशियत वजह ना यक वो हर किसी में साजार फ़र्क अस्ते.
I don't think it's different, but the rhythm changes as you go from one place to another. Other thing is the type of lyrics and the ability of a person who is playing it. Like in ghazals, you have to change this, but in case of Narsur, it always remains same.
माध्यम में जोड़ियाँ वजन आ नड़ा वजन तो माध्यम सागी में नड़े सावे बाज फनकार करने की यक्के वजन आते कुल है मतलब साज हमेशा था आके वजन आते हवे साज दो मिनट कसे हमारा शायर शायरी यहाँ एक है गज़ल है यहाँ एक है हमारा शायर शायरी भी ये नड़ सुर वालों साहब ये मैं यक निशर कोई मतलब नहीं ना फर्क नहीं
Asghar sahab, our new generation is not aware of these traditional forms of instruments. What should we do to make them aware of this?
हमारे जी वक्त के सरीते शेरा हम की जिंदगी है और इशियरा माँ हवे कोशिशों कि इशियर के देमा वधाइन की है इशिये हमान गार नखन की है ये यक की सखावतें यक रस्म रवाज और पदी मसला पद ठीक है कि गार नखन की ये शे हम अगा बढ़ाना पड़ो
The first thing is that we are trying our best to spread and save this traditional form of music. We keep saying that we should not forget our culture and music. If you have a child, first thing is that provide him an education. And with the education, you should tell him about culture and this form of music. Both things should move simultaneously.
मतलब जीरी इल्लगी है इसी दे हिस्सा से तालीम ज़रूरी है सारी कैसे तालीम ज़रूरी है वही चुके वही बच्चे और यहाँ तालीमात है और तालीमात रंदा ईदगार नखन गई वही रस्म रवाज दिगार नखन गई वही साज वही ज़ेमर हमारा टॉक मशायर शायरी आंदगार नखन गई ये दिया के हिस्सा है ना
Thank you so much for coming to our show. Today's show was very informative. I learned so much about Narsur and I hope our audience has learned as well.
Thank you so much.
Friends, that was a very informative show about Narsur. Narsur is an indigenous form of music that needs to be preserved, documented and disseminated to our future generations. Before we leave, we will play another beautiful performance of Ms. Meera Khan and Asghar Khan that was recorded in our studios. Keep watching Folk Beats every Sunday on PTV World. Goodbye.
मेरा मामी सरा डाडरा बार साल मनी या खुदा पृष्ठगा आला